safely document them.
Thank you. Thank you. We want to switch now. We've been talking to James Chow, who is the business director of Tequa Value Chain, about some of the evolution of his career, learning how to run a printing press, learning how to sell, and then opening up a plant in Malaysia. And so it's been a continual movement of growth in a family business. And I know we've been talking a little bit about some of the coaching that you've been doing, and you've been working with Caliper's consultant in Singapore, KL Chia. KL, what are some of the opportunities and challenges that you've come across in terms of working with James?
I have worked in a lot of multinational, but this is the first company that is family-owned that I work with. Coming from that perspective, I find that, number one, this company is very maternal and paternal. They really take care of their people as though they are family members. And to me, that was the beginning of the challenge. For example, they will really consider very, very long and hard about firing somebody. They would try their utmost and their best to make the necessary changes before that comes about. In many other companies, that person would have long gone. So that was challenge number one. But it was a good challenge. But in working with James, it's a little different in the sense that he has his own view of things. He has the education that is both a combination of local as well as Western, and that helped in developing his perspective. But I think the most important part of the coaching process was the fact that we were able to use some of the Caliper traits, and that helped us focus on certain specific areas and challenges as we were doing the analysis, which then turns into the action plans for the coachee.
Mm-hmm. And coaching is that place where the personal and the professional really connect. So we're talking about the evolution, really, of an executive. If you could share with us, KL, in terms of the qualities and what some of the development that you two have been working on, that would be fabulous.
I guess from the aspect of both the 360 as well as the Caliper profile, there were a number of areas that we looked at. One area in particular was the way he had interacted with his people. And also from the feedback of his people, some of them have mentioned the abruptness in terms of directions with good intention, but a little abrupt. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people didn't take it as well and felt that his abruptness was equated to high-handedness, which is not true. It appears that way.
Often we can be misinterpreted, yes.
So I think it was more of a misinterpretation than James's intention. So one of the ways we began working on is, how do you modify the way you interact with them? How do you get a little bit more input from them rather than having them come to you for a decision? And what was interesting is when I finally talked to James's direct report, they said that they had seen a lot of positive changes in the way James has interacted with them, and that he listens more to them. He allows them that communication. He allows them to explore ideas before a decision is made.
That's excellent. That sounds almost transformative. How long did that take to bring about?
8 months, which is pretty good.
I think that's very, very good, because you're really talking about fundamentally coming across in a way that's different. I think also what you shared here, KL, is the notion that you work from your strengths and you recognize those, and if we're devoted and dedicated, and if we have the true desire to change, we might be able to change one thing at a time. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. James is really an exemplary coachee. He really worked on his goals and therefore being able to produce the kinds of results and the transformation that he has had.
James, could you share with us a little bit of what was going on inside of you as you started to change and relate to people in a way that came across as a little bit less abrupt and a little bit more involved?
To do something, we must have passion. KL Chia is not my first coach. We have done that before. I look forward to the session. I'll share with him what I've done. I think the important thing is from the Caliper profiling came the 360, which is what people say about me, how to transform for the better. I even share the Caliper profile with them, that this is who I am. How can we work together so that you benefit both your career and also my career? I got KL's input.
This is excellent, James, because what I hear as I'm listening to you is an executive who is very, very interested in developing himself personally and professionally and sees this as a journey and something that you will continually get better at, and then you will be able to carry that with you to the next step that you move into in your professional career.
That's right.
This has been excellent, gentlemen. Thank you both very, very much. You've really given us insights into how someone who is doing very, very well is looking at a way to even get much better professionally as well as personally, and to see a way to continue growing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It's good to hear that executive coaching is really being embraced on a global scale. And Kim, as we heard from James and KL, there are some very concrete things that needed to be worked on. Is this usually something that is outlined at the start of a coaching engagement?
During coaching, we do a couple things. The coachee can bring a scenario to the table that they want to discuss or challenge that they're facing. And typically through reflection and by asking really good questions as a coach, my job is to hold up the mirror so that person can get a good look at themselves. It's not to solve their problems, but to help them understand how they go about dealing with an issue. And a lot of times it's through that pain or through that excellent experience that they have one of those moments of, wow, I just realized that I'm doing something that might be misperceived. I get it. And that's the moment where all the coaching and all the work and all the trust and all of the experience we've had together comes to the forefront. And that's when behavioral change occurs.
Can you share with me then a story about a client you worked with who really got something substantial out of the coaching?
Yes, absolutely. There was a vice president that I worked with who had recently gotten promoted from a director level role. She was very dynamic, had lots of energy, and her team grew from 5 employees to 25.
Wow.
All of a sudden, she had a huge amount of time management challenges and prioritization issues. Her team was very kind and said, you know what, you are the queen of the drive-by. So she would fly into the office, delegate, and give this one's for you, and this task is for you, and then bolt on to the next thing to do. Over time, the staff was getting very burnt out and very frustrated. She finally had a 360 and got the feedback. You need to slow down a little bit and be thoughtful and strategic as a vice president and really organize your time much better. She did a great job of using some of the techniques I gave her in terms of managing her calendar, spending time meeting with people one-on-one, focusing on quarterly goal achievement, and using those folks on her team that were excellent at time management to plan the details. And within 6 months, the team completely turned around and they were hitting goals and feeling very excited because some of the managers on the team were able to step up and take on more responsibilities, and they worked together. So she understood A, time management, B, how to develop and grow her people, and C, how to slow down just a little bit so that she was coming across much more polished from an executive presence perspective.
That's so fascinating, and the notion of managing time and how we manage ourselves, because it sounds like a math problem. I mean, she had a lot more people, and everybody wants to have the individualized attention. So what did you teach her about how to work out the number of hours during the day and the number of more people responding to her so that she came across in a way where she was meeting the goals for each of those individuals, but also conveying the sense that she had it all under control and she had a much more strategic approach?
Well, the first thing was she had to get very specific. Doing 10 or 12 things was too much in terms of goal and priority organization. So we focused her on 4 major points. Secondly, we looked at how she dealt with her calendar. And basically, she was kind of free flow. Oh, I don't need to plan for that. And then everybody would take her time away when they were looking at her schedule. So she started to plan certain times at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day that were for executing on projects. Then she specifically structured when are the quarterly meetings going to be, when are the goal meetings going to be, one-on-one meetings with everybody. And she was able to get control of her calendar and started to ask questions like, do I really need to do this? Is this the role that I have? Am I functioning at my own level? And does this relate to the strategic goals that I'm trying to accomplish? And if not, who can do that for me? What are the strengths of my team? and she started to turn it around. Now, every single day, does she not struggle with it? Yes, it's her personality. However, through techniques and tools, she can focus in, and she's much more effective and is viewed as somebody who is much more polished and calm with how she approaches her work.
So that change then becomes very huge. It becomes a change in behavior, but also a change in the way she's perceived, and a change in actually what she's able to accomplish.
Absolutely, and her manager could see it, her direct reports saw it, and her peers saw it as well.
In your experience as an executive coach, Kim, in terms of somebody being self-aware, are you dealing mostly with that individual? Is your understanding through their perceptions? Or do you also have to spend time with their team and other players that they interact with regularly?
Each coaching engagement's a little bit different, but I do meet with their manager probably 3 to 4 times during a 6-month coaching engagement, which is typically what we offer. We usually do 6 months to 1 year. So it depends on the level. If it's an upper-level C-suite person, there's a good opportunity for me to watch that person in action, attend meetings that they might go to, or meet with their staff one-on-one at different intervals throughout the coaching process, and get feedback from peers. And that helps me and the coachee understand, well, how effective am I being? Or, geez, I never knew that. Or, wow, that guy's really doing a great job. I've noticed so much change. We're much more collaborative with each other, and he's listening so much better than he was 6 months ago. And then at the end, we typically do another 360 assessment to take a look at the results from the front end to the back end and see if we've had change. And so far, all the coaching assignments I've had, there's been a change in behavior that other people have perceived as a result of the assessment numbers at the end.
And so your relationship with this individual then ends up becoming like what?
Well, I think it's very, very specific in terms of trust. At first, it could be, well, I don't know you and you don't know me, but you know a lot about my assessment and my results. Then it moves to, wow, I'm going to share experiences with you, and could you help me understand more about myself? And it becomes very vulnerable. That person's sharing things that are painful at times, and they're experiencing successes or failures, and they discuss those items with me, and it becomes very deep in terms of coaching.
So that you're dealing in a very personal realm there, a place where the personal and professional intersect. But oftentimes, I would assume from what you're saying that such an individual finds out something about him or herself that they hadn't realized before that has to do with stuff that goes back very far.
Yes, I mean, that's where the vulnerability comes in. I mean, being able to be real with yourself and dig in as to why you do something or you don't do something, and what you value or you don't value. I mean, it's a very professional process, and the fact that we do focus on work and also your personality traits, and we discuss mechanisms and plans to try something different or better, but then that person will go out and try something new or different and come back with a success or a failure, depending on the situation. So it's a very deep process that can be very life-changing for people.